Hey everyone, it's Dr. Krystal Lynn Couture from Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And today I want to talk to you about results. So what kind of results can you expect when you come in for pelvic care services? Okay, well, first off, your story is going to be very different from my next client's story, from my next client, and so on, right? So we're not necessarily comparing apples to apples here, but I want to give a general overview of what we're looking at and what we can expect. And I would say this, generally within the very first visit, people experience change. Now that change might not be a symptom rectification, but they experience some type of change. So for instance, I had a woman who came in and she had had 3 babies vaginally, and then she had had a C-section for her twins. After her first visit, what we identified was a lot of anomalies in her pelvis. So we did a lot of manual work to rectify and balance out her pelvis. And what she came back and said was actually, oh my gosh, my back pain improved. And she hadn't told me about her back pain. My back pain had improved. And also I happened to notice that I wasn't getting up at night as much to use the bathroom. So it was about frequency, when her biggest concern when she came in was leakage. So it's very possible that we're going to impact other things and improve them before we improve the symptom. That said, where you are in your life also makes a big difference to the results. So for instance, I was treating a young male with erectile dysfunction. He was probably 25 years old when I began seeing him. And in 3 sessions, we worked a lot with traditional Chinese medicine principles, no herbs, no supplements, just traditional Chinese medicine principles, and worked on his emotional body and what was going on at his life in that time. It was something that was actually really stressful. Within 3 sessions, within a probably 3-week period, we were able to create results for him where the dysfunction was no longer a problem. A year later, saw him for something else, and there was no recurrence of the erectile dysfunction. Now, with a client who I was seeing in their late 40s with erectile dysfunction that was on some medication for different things, we did more like 6 or 7 sessions and were able to improve results. So it really depends upon where you are in your life, where you are with the pattern, and what's the predominance. With this older male, what the issue was actually a more physical problem. So there were some significant imbalances within the pelvis, and also in particular in the hamstrings and in the quadricep muscles, because he was an athlete. So this was really causing a torque on the pelvis that was creating poor facilitation for the blood flow and essentially fluid flow within the pelvis, right? So it's really important to correct that. Now, this is someone that I see continuously for maintenance because his sport brings him back into that negative posture repeatedly. So that's another thing that can impact results, right? But generally what I say is this: we want to create, and I see a lot of clients who have been to other practitioners and then come to see me. So you're either at a plateau or things are getting worse for you. So what we're looking for, if you're at a plateau, we want to start to see things start to increase, and then they may plateau off again, and then we want to start to see them increase, so, or improve, right? If you're on a downslide, we want to stop that downslide where it is and create some leveling off. Once we create some leveling off, then we can start to track toward improvement. And that's going to consist of really looking at the total body, looking at what's happening on a physical level, looking at what's happening on the spiritual, emotional level, and looking at what's happening systemically within the energy of the organs within the body kingdom. So results are going to be yours uniquely. And I'm going to help you to get toward those results, because my goal is for you to have sustainable progress. The other thing that I will say that really, really helps clients is that if we make lifestyle recommendations and they're able to implement those recommendations. So let's say you have chronic constipation and you have hemorrhoids. One of my top go-tos recommendations for someone with chronic constipation and hemorrhoids is to one, drink half their body weight in ounces of water, and two, to make sure that they're using a squatty potty or other type of toilet stool. Now, if you are able to continue with these lifestyle recommendations, the chances of your results improving are going to be far greater than if you don't. Acupuncture, moxibustion, cupping, dry needling, whatever modalities that we are going to put forth, however we work with the emotions, these are all going to help. And integrating them into your life to support your body is also going to help. And I think the key here is realizing that some of these recommendations are based upon natural ways in which we could take care of ourselves. But we look at medicine rather than being preventative, we look at it as being reactive. And that's a huge problem for pelvic health and for our overall total health. You know, before toilets were invented, the primary way that someone would use the bathroom for a bowel movement was squatting, right? Squatting is the natural way that our body is meant to utilize the bathroom, to have a bowel movement, because when we're squatting, see the external anal sphincter here? Okay. And see this muscle here? That's called the puborectalis. Now that muscle wraps right around, you can't see it because we've got the external anal sphincter, but it wraps right around like a U. Okay, you can see that. So like a U, you imagine that going through. It wraps right around the external anal sphincter. Now, that muscle is activated when we are in a sitting position. It is not activated when we're in a deep squat position, right? So we're looking at preventative medicine. We're also looking at self-care. Self-care is so much of what I do in my practice to help clients to really take care of their bodies at home so that they can be nurtured, they can be nourished, treat their body as a temple. Remember, it's the only one that we came in with, and that the body is finite. It has an expiration date, right? And we can impact that expiration date by how we choose to live. And so that's a great way to increase the sustainability of results. Another thing that I love to do in my practice is to bring in a little bit of Chinese nutrition. Now, Chinese nutrition is not dieting. Chinese nutrition is looking at the energetics of food. So let's say for someone that has chronic infections and that those infections are related to heat. Okay, if they're constantly eating spicy foods, lots of ginger, lots of garlic, lots of pepper, and their body is too hot, there's excess heat in their body. Let's say they've got hot flashes on top of it too, right? One of my recommendations is going to be to bring in some cooler foods to help to balance the system, because what we eat makes a huge, huge impact on the regulation of energy within the system. And hot and cold is the primary way in which to talk about that. Now, that said, we talked about heat a little. Let's talk about cold, just because I can't not. We live in New England here. So in the wintertime, if you're eating smoothies and salads and maybe one hot meal a day and iced coffee, that is not going to do your body any favors. So if you're constipated, if you're having diarrhea, it might be because there's too much cold in the system. So one thing that we can do is work with the temperature to bring in some warming foods. Even if you're doing your smoothies, maybe you're not doing them with ice, maybe you're adding things like cinnamon and nutmeg to them to warm them up a little bit. This is going to really, really help the body to function more properly. So these are the type of recommendations that I make for my clients in addition to what we're doing on the table. So there's this component of you're coming for treatment, and then we're extending your treatment with what you're doing at home. We're making pelvic care a lifestyle for you so that you can go through the aging process and feel more comfortable, less pain, less dysfunction within your pelvis.